Righty, good morning. I am tired. I worked door security at the bar last night and got up at like 7 this morning because I gotta go referee a JV basketball tournament. See how this goes. But it's early and I got my coffee and I have a rant to go on. Now, I'm sure there's going to be tons of people who immediately are going to think I'm dumb with this rant. And it doesn't really bother me because there's a lot of dumb people in the world. And those are the ones who are going to think this is dumb. I'm going to get into the arrogance of modern man, let's call it. How smart we think we are. And really, how incredibly dumb we are. How we think we're so much better than our ancestors, especially the further back we go to. Pre-civilization, even though we keep figuring out civilization started way sooner than we think. Look it up. Every 5 years, they move it back by thousands of years of when civilization began. And that is that, how do I say this without scaring off the most people? There is absolutely zero, this isn't just me, this is common scientific knowledge, zero evidence, whether it be on research or laboratory or evidence-based, zero evidence that macro genome type evolution exists. None. No evidence whatsoever. At all. Nothing. It doesn't exist. You will talk to people and they won't realize that this is still just a theory. And actually, the more and more data we collect and research we do, the more flimsy and flimsy this theory begins. You talk to people that are Darwinists. Even Darwin himself said this would probably be debated for generations to come, and he wasn't even really sure. And that it's just an interesting theory. And it is because we do know, a lot of it based on ideas that Darwin introduced, that phenome type evolution, adaptation does exist. Now the difference is genome is the DNA that makes you human, the DNA that makes you a human being. And macroevolution is evolving from one species to a more complex species. So single-celled organisms to multi-cell human beings. Complex organisms evolving. Phenome type is adaptations, like I said. So if you live in an area where there's less atmospheric protection from the sun's radiation, you're probably going to have darker skin. You live in a place with a certain type of diet, you're going to adapt to better absorb those nutrients. You know, there's so many reasons. Like they say the average IQ of certain areas are higher than others, and to me that also is phenome type evolution, because it all depends on what the resources are around you, what you need to work on and develop and evolve in a phenome adaptation type way. And that, to me, is intelligent design. So there's evidence of phenome, no evidence whatsoever of genome evolution. You know, even Darwin, what he did was he found some finches on some island, and we're like, hey, these are finches, but they got a different beak. Whoa, and what it was phenome evolution. There was a drought like 100 or so years before on that island, and the birds who had the beaks that were able to get into the areas where water is held in hard seeds or in dry plate or in hard bark and all that, those are the ones who survived, and they passed on that trait. It's phenome type evolution. They did not become a more complex organism. In fact, if you take a simple line graph, and on the y-axis you have information, on the x-axis you have complexity, the evolution genome type graph will show you that as more information comes in, you're getting more and more complex. It's going up in an arching way. Never been observed, never seen, only a theory. No data whatsoever. Of course, the Bible, it says that it's just a straight line. Just a straight line across. Nothing, you don't change. And then what we actually observe is that it goes down. We get less complex. There are diseases that we get, and we say that it's a good thing when we become immune to them, but some of them, not all of them, but what they're doing is the virus is attacking a protein, and that protein is either directly associated with our DNA, or there's part of our DNA that is written to show us how to create this protein. And when we stop creating it, we become immune to this virus. That's less complex. We're becoming less complex. Think about it. This is like your computer getting a virus, and you have to delete the files that are affected by that virus. And you're like, this is a good thing! Whoa! My computer's evolving! It's becoming better! What? You can't use Microsoft Word or watch videos on your computer now. This is a worse computer. But it's immune to that virus. This is literally what they say. We are getting less complex. We're devolving. Devolving. And they use that, some scientists, as evidence of evolution. Think about that. You can argue that's a phenome. I don't really agree that the virus idea that I just introduced, not idea, the virus thing that happens with proteins, I don't think that's phenome type evolution. I think that's just straight up devolving. But you can make an argument for phenome type, I guess. But there's no argument that that is a genome type macroevolution, that's evidence of us evolving, becoming more complex. Doesn't exist. No animal at all, which it would be going on continuously. We would always be seeing it. We do always see phenome type evolutions, adaptations, all the time. Never, ever, 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 ever see a genome type evolution. It's the arrogance of man. We think we're so much smarter than the past. We think the past can't be nearly as intelligent. Because then so many questions come into play. I mean, how did they believe the things they believed back then? The mythologies, and the beliefs that they had. What is this? They had to be dumb. They're dumb. We're not as smart. We're more intelligent now. We're far superior to them. No. And even on that graph I explained, the information aspect of it, I don't totally agree with that, because we know that there's tons of information that we've lost. Do you know we lost, this isn't me, this is NASA. NASA says this. We lost the information, the technology that we once had to go to the moon. That's why we can't go back anymore. That's why we can't get out of low Earth orbit. Because we once had it and we lost it. Now, believe that or not if you want, but that's just, I'm telling you, we lose information all the time. So we're not better off, we're not better than our ancestors. In a lot of ways, we're worse off than our ancestors. But I'm not even here to say evolution does or doesn't exist. Honestly, I don't think it matters. South Park explains that entirely for all of you believers out there in God. Because even if evolution does exist, God is still the why, and evolution is just the how. But there's no evidence for it. None. For a single-cell organism becoming more complex into another organism. Doesn't exist. No evidence. And the more and more we find out about DNA, more and more that we find out about archaeology, the less and less likely it seems. But then you have to admit that the ancestors, like, what was going on for sure? You know, were they really so dumb to think that men sitting on horsebacks were half man, half horse? Or were they intelligent enough to see that that horse had a head and there were legs of the man hanging on the side of the horse? Well, if they could see it and they were intelligent enough to understand what that meant, then what are they talking about with centaurs? So people just want to use it. They want to say, though, we've evolved. No evidence of it. Evidence of de-evolution, but no one wants to talk about that. I think that might be involved with some of the problems with vaccines. But now, hey, now I'm just going off conspiracy road. No evidence of macroevolution. Plenty of evidence of phenome microevolution. Just my little rant. I'm home now, though. I gotta go change and shower and get to this basketball tournament. Everybody have a great weekend.